Okay, time to look at the continuation of the Saturday morning business session of the 2021 North Carolina Republican Party State Convention. Now, in a previous video, I just covered the very beginning of the Saturday morning session. It was all the candidate speeches. This particular video is really when the convention is at its absolute highest peak, the most exciting. And we're going to discuss over the course of several minutes, maybe even an hour, however long this video takes, I'm going to discuss a lot of things that were of great controversy of the Plan Organization. Now, the leader of the Plan Organization Committee is a gentleman by the name of Scott Cumby, who lives in the county just west of where I am. He lives in Forsyth County. And he said that the Plan Organization met every weekend in March and April, and they spent about 600 to 700 hours looking at the plan of organization. And this is of all the committees that go into working the convention. This is my favorite one. You have Plan of Organization, you have the Rules Committee, you have the platform and the resolutions. Plan of Organization has the most. It's the bylaws of how the North Carolina Republican Party runs. And I was actually on a similar committee a few years ago in Florida on the Seminole County Young Republicans organization on the bylaws committee. You know, some states call it the bylaws committee. North Carolina GOP obviously calls it the Plan of Organization Committee. Now, I am not currently on the Plan of Organization Committee for the NCGOP. Hopefully someday I will be. I am on the State Executive Committee, and my leader. Each executive committee is made up of the 13th Congressional District, North Carolina. The chair of my district, District 6, who is a nice lady by the name of Tina Forsberg, asked me what committees I'd like to be on, and I said either rules or Planarization. But ultimately, there were a couple other people who may be a little bit more experienced and obviously can commit to having every single weekend in March and April off, which currently I cannot. But hopefully over the next year or so, I'll finish my college degree and be able to find a job where I can have every single weekend off and not have to work most weekends like I currently do. So I covered all of the proposed amendments very thoroughly on a previous video. So for this video, I'm just going to tell you what was debated at the convention, and when I discuss the amendments, I'm just going to read to you it's a paragraph at the very end of the amendment page is called Justification for Proposed Amendment. So what the convention, what Chairman Cumby decided to do is take certain amendments and put them together as a package. And the first package he decided to do was look at 2, 3, and 4 simultaneously. Amendment 2, the justification is, it says, this section defines the process to elect the state chairman, vice chairman, and district offices is by a weighted vote per county, similar to the constitutional electoral college. This section can only be changed by using the same process. This prevents a simple majority vote from changing the section immediately before an election for state chairman and vice chairman. So this basically unfortunately, it makes it more difficult to get rid of weighted voting. So, which I don't agree with at all, that's a story for another day, but in order to get rid of weighted voting, now you have to have a weighted vote to get rid of weighted voting. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I don't think so either, but it is what it is. Amendment 3. Justification for Amendment 3 is there are instances when the state central committee may need to meet on very short notice because an emergency situation, for example, a fire at the headquarters building, cancellation of a convention or meeting venue, a pandemic, etc. This amendment provides a means for the state central committee to meet sooner than the normal 10 days notice. Amendment 4. This is one that I really like. The district executive committees are currently required to meet once a calendar quarter. This amendment will make the state, district, and county meeting frequency to be consistent. This amendment assures that all executive committees will meet once a quarter so that all members have an opportunity to receive updates, ask questions, and conduct business on a more frequent basis. Okay, now we go into the debate. First person we have on the floor of the convention is Mary Guy from Henderson County. And she says that if you increase the number of state executive committee meetings from 2 a year to 4 a year, it's going to put a financial burden on members. She said, how about a compromise? 2 of the 4 meetings should be electronic. And then, let's see, Michelle Nix, who's a friend of mine, by the way, but for the planning organization on this Saturday morning, she was probably the most, what's the word I'm looking for, most dynamic character of the morning. She said Amendment 2 is redundant. I agree. And it doesn't make a lot of sense either because, if you want to get rid of weighted voting, you have to still take a weighted vote to get rid of weighted voting, right? Amendment 3 is various concerns with quorum. That is that deals with the state central committee. And Amendment 4, the increase in the state executive committee meetings from 2 to 4 a year. She says it's an undue burden, traveling too far, and why are we telling the counties what to do as far as how many meetings they have? Let's see, and then virtually, because there was a virtual component going on at the same time as the physical component. What I mean by this is physical convention. You have people sitting in a large room in Greenville, and virtually you have people who are participating in the convention via a computer. Okay, virtually we had Deanna D. Liberto of Guilford County. Hey, that's my county. Now, I do know Deanna. She says she's opposed to Amendment 4 again. Compromise. How about 2 virtual, 2 in person? I think that's okay. I'd rather have 4 together. There was a move to end debate by a person from Wake County. And then we took a vote on Amendment 2, which was the weighted voting. Amendment 3, State Central Committee meeting notices, and the time, emergency notices, and then Amendment 4, of course, is on the frequency of State Executive Committee meetings. Now, one thing. In this debate, I do notice that the people Henderson County is a county over in the western part of the state. Most state executive committee meetings happen at least recent history of the last year or so, year or two, pretty much all the state executive committee meetings occur in Raleigh. So it's easy for me, somebody who lives only an hour, 15-minute drive, 75-minute drive away from Raleigh, to say that, yeah, I want more meetings. But I can also see where the people in the far west or the far east part of North Carolina would oppose having more physical state executive committee meetings. But one thing I see is maybe the state could move the meeting sites around. Maybe every once in a while maybe once a year meet in Asheville, once a year meet down in New Bern or Wilmington. And also maybe instead of having all the meetings in Raleigh, have one in the west, one on the coast, one in Raleigh, but also maybe one in Greensboro or Charlotte. Spread them out a little more. But the package of Amendment 2, Amendment 3, Amendment 4, I decided to vote for it. I was mainly voting because supporting Amendment 4 and not so much Amendment 3 and 4, not so much Amendment 2. So 2 out of 3 I was voting for, but again, you have to vote for all of them at the same time. I voted yes, and the count on this was 373 support Amendment 2, 3, and 4, and 465 said no to Amendment 2, 3, and 4. But ultimately, my point in supporting Amendment 4 was that more meetings equal more transparency, and you also get more interaction with the state party leadership. So the amendments, let's see. Amendments 2, 3, and 4 failed, but then we have a motion to reconsider. Motion to reconsider was seconded, but then we had a motion to what happened was weird. The same person that had a motion to reconsider the vote on these amendments, then couple moments later had made a motion to withdraw. But his motion to withdraw, fortunately, was denied. Chairman of the convention, Billy Miller, had great sense there to say no, And then he said the chair would perhaps recommend therapy. Okay, so we had a motion to reconsider, but unfortunately the motion to reconsider failed. Amendment 5 and 6. Amendment 5 is on electronic meetings. A justification for a proposed amendment says that in-person conventions and meetings are the most productive way for members to interact with one another, develop relationships, and conduct business. Since electronic meetings limit personal interaction and make participation more difficult, such as making motions, debate, and voting, etc., electronic meetings should only be authorized when something prevents in-person meetings. Amendment 6. Same thing, except instead of dealing with meetings, we're dealing with conventions. Justification for proposed amendment. Currently, this is actually different. Justification for proposed amendment, Amendment 6. Currently, at-large state executive committee members and at-large district executive committee members are elected at the district conventions. It has been the practice of most districts to allocate the nomination of these at-large members to the counties based on the Republican population. Some districts require the counties to elect the nominees. Other districts hold a caucus at the district convention to make nominations. Other districts ask the county chairman to make the nominations. This amendment will provide one consistent process by electing the at-large members at the county convention. Note, this amendment is necessary in order for the congressional districts to reform after the 10-year constitutional reapportionment or with court-imposed unconstitutional redistricting. See Amendment 7. Okay. 5 and 6. It should be noted that the new edition of Robert's Rules of Order discourages electronic meetings. And let's see. Representative Pittman, one of my favorite representatives in the North Carolina legislature, in the State House, says that we act like Democrats when we do virtual meetings. This COVID has a 99.6% recovery rate. He says he supports Amendment 5 in doing away completely with virtual meetings. Then we hear from Michelle Woodhouse, not related to Dallas Woodhouse, as far as I know. But Michelle Woodhouse, who's chair of the District 11 Republican Party, says that she opposes this because she opposes Amendment 5 because it makes it harder for participation, and she goes back to travel concerns with having more meetings. She says if you do away with all electronic meetings, then it would make it hard for everyone to participate. Lynette Ramsey of Caldwell County says that having in-person meetings make it so that the political process is more important. I couldn't agree more. She says that we ultimately made the drive for our District 11 meetings, and if you take the time, you're invested. So in other words, it makes it so it's a lot more important if you actually drive a couple hours to the meeting, right? Attend the meeting, take the time, rather than just sit in your boxer shorts and do the meeting virtually. Okay, also Terry Schmidt of Chatham County says just let the counties make the call regarding virtual versus in-person meetings. Let's see. And then a young gentleman from Craven County says, if I take a college course in person, then we should have meetings in person. He said, don't go through the online malarkey. Cherokee County, someone from Cherokee County said that they are actually closer to Atlanta than they are the city of Raleigh, the state capital of North Carolina. They're actually closer to the Georgia state capital. They're actually closer to Atlanta than, they're closer to Atlanta than they are the center of Congressional District 11. Scott Cumby, the chair of the Planning Organization Committee, says that Amendment 5 is important to pass because he thinks that the in-person meetings, they bring out a different dynamic in people. Seeing each other, being able to hug each other, just makes the party process a lot more fun, makes it a lot more transparent, and a sense of camaraderie. Vance McGraw from Henderson County says, what if you have an illness? Can't you still make it, virtually? Then a gentleman from Moore County had a compromise, said why not rotate meeting locations? I said that before. Let's see. Fred Gailey of Alamance County says he goes away on business 60% of the month. So he needs to do virtual meetings. There was a motion to end debate on Amendment 5, and the motion fails. Now, I should tell you that, Amendment 5 was actually taken just one, package of one. Okay, the vote was taken on Amendment 5. The amendment to replace virtual meetings with all physical meetings failed. Amendment 6 was actually attached with Amendment 7. You have 6 and 7 as a package. Forgot about the noise here. By the way, I'm doing this at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up like 2 hours early. I had to go to the bathroom, couldn't go back to sleep, and here I am. So that's what I'm doing. I had the alarm set and forgot all about it. Anyway, Amendment 6. Okay. It deals with basically, instead of electing at-large members to the state executive committee at the district convention, it transfers that power to the county convention. Okay. And then Amendment 7 deals with redistricting. A county executive committee meeting can elect to any vacancies caused by redistricting. First, we hear from our buddy Steve Radner. Why do I say our buddy? Well, he's been in a lot of other state convention videos that I've done in the past, and I pretty much agree with him on everything he says. He's out of Beaufort County, and I mean, he goes to every state convention, at least the ones that I've been to. And fortunately, this year, Beaufort County is just east of Pitt County, where this year's convention was held. Anyway, Mr. Radner was district chair during a redistricting cycle. What I mean by redistricting cycle is every 10 years, a U.S. census has to be taken. It's in the Constitution. And a census is being completed right now, actually, for 2020. It was delayed a little bit because of COVID and stuff, but it should be out before the end of the year here in 2021. Well, the census looks at population, but also you have a thing called redistricting that says how many people you can have per congressional district. And congressional districts are represented by members of Congress and these U.S. House of Representatives. That's how that works. Anyway, he says that if we appoint members to the state executive committee meeting at the county conventions, it would diminish the power of the district conventions. Also, he said smaller counties will not be able to get executive committee members. He basically says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, we had opposition to delete Amendment 6. Rick Smith of Randolph County says, stop large counties from pulling members and it stops larger counties from having more members on the state executive committee meeting, and it gives smaller control to all the individual counties. Let's see. And opposition to getting rid of Amendment 6, Lynette Ramsey, Caldwell County. She says that she lives in a county with 24,000 Republicans, but had no representation, and the district would hand-pick whatever members they wanted to the state executive committee. Then we had a virtual delegate, Fred Marino of Columbus County, said to end debate, move previous question. There was a vote to eliminate Amendment 6, and ultimately was decided to not eliminate Amendment 6. I decided to abstain from this vote. I heard arguments from both sides on this and just could not make a fair and just disposition, or a fair and just decision, I should say. Okay, so back to voting on Amendments 6 and 7 as a complete package. Martin Oaks of Lincoln County said each county should have a minimum of one at-large member. Let's see. Then a point of information was asked: is there more counties than at-large seats available in the executive committee meeting? 16 counties equal 14 members. Is there a math concern? And then we go to this formula that states that 8,000 Republicans per county equals one at-large member on the state executive committee. That's the current minimum standard. But it should be noted that every county is represented on the state executive committee by at least the county chair and county vice chair. Or first vice chair, I should say. Because a lot of counties, they have more than one vice chair. They have first vice chair, second vice chair, third vice chair. And then the vice chairs have titles. First vice chair, specialization in finance. Second vice chair, specialization in precinct operations. Third vice chair, specialization in communications. Yeah. Okay, Gaston County supports the county plan. And this says this takes power away from large counties. Jon Stewart, who's a longtime chairman of the District 9 Republican Party, he's a good guy. I generally disagree with him, though, more so than not on a lot of these inter-party manners, but he is a good guy, and actually on this one, I actually agree with him. Amendment 7 brings about chaos to the redistricting process, and Amendment 6, again, to Steve Radner's point, kind of a weird, because Jon Stewart's very establishment and Radner's very Tea Party, Liberty faction. But Jon Stewart says that Amendment 6 would take the district out of the power of making decisions. I completely agree. And then there was a move, previous question and debate by Bill Jett of Mecklenburg County. Let's see. We did a stand-in vote and it was very close. 411 delegates said yes to Amendment 6 and Amendment 7, and 428, including yours truly, said no to Amendment 6 and Amendment 7. Okay, Amendment 8 takes these committee assignments. Let's see. This amendment allows the standing committees to serve for 2-year terms that are concurrent with the election of officers. This will allow for more continuity with the standing committees, especially those committees which have ongoing work throughout the year. That's your platform and plan of organization. Okay. Amendment 8 takes these terms from 1 year to 2 years. Roger Farina says he's in favor of this change because he was assigned to a committee 2 months before the convention, and then met 8 weekends in a row to do the appropriate business for that convention. And also having a 2-year term, he says, gets better and more frequent feedback from grassroots. Okay. Michelle Nix, Carteret County, probably had one of the most memorable statements of the entire convention. She said, I oppose Amendment 8, and hopefully the rest of these changes will be voted down as well. Maybe we need a new team on the Plan Organization Committee. These changes have not been well received by delegates. We need to give them an election every single year. Now to this I would say, frequent rotation in office is a good thing. And I ultimately voted no on Amendment 8. However, it passed with a voice vote. A voice vote means the convention audience yells yay or nay. And if the convention chairman, Mr. Billy Miller, cannot make the determination of whether or not a yay or nay was louder, then we go to the stand-in vote where the yays stand up, and tellers will count the number of people stand up. They'll sit down, then the people in the opposition will stand up, and the tellers will count those. Whoever has the greater number wins the vote. So Amendment 8 passes with just the voice vote. Amendment 9 is adopted by voice vote, and this had no debate. Amendment 9, Amendment 9 clarifies the Plan of Organization's committee roles and responsibilities. This is important. I'll read this in its entirety. 1 proposes amendments to the State Plan of Organization at the Annual State Convention. Number 2 serves as the final interpretive body concerning questions related to the State Plan of Organization or parliamentary procedure. Any question that implicates state or federal law shall be referred to the State General Council. Questions concerning to the interpretation of the State Plan of Organization or parliamentary procedure shall be submitted to the State General Council and the State Plan of Organization Committee Chairman. Any decisions may be appealed to the Plan of Organization Committee for a final decision. Clause B. The State General Council and State Plan of Organization Committee Chairman may refer any question to the State Plan of Organization Committee. If the State General Council and State Plan of Organization Committee Chairman are not in agreement on a decision, they shall refer the question to the State Plan of Organization Committee for consideration. If questions arise because of potential conflicts between the district or county plan of organization and the state plan of organization, the questions may be submitted as stated in 7D2A, whatever that means. Document language. Okay. Very simple, just clarifying the duties of the plan of organization, passes by a voice vote, no debate. Amendment 10. Amendment 10 deals with adding a personnel committee. Okay. It should be noted that speaking in opposition is Michelle Woodhouse of District 11. She says that when we look at the duties of what the Personnel Committee does, she says that we're letting volunteers make human resources decisions. Okay, so let's look at the duties here of the Personnel Committee, the proposed Personnel Committee. It says in Clause 7, the Personnel Committee shall provide an annual performance review of the Executive Director. The Personnel Committee shall make a full report to the Central Committee on the Executive Director's job performance. The Personnel Committee shall recommend any annual compensation adjustments or bonus compensation based on the overall performance review to the State Central Committee for approval or amendments. If the review Clause 8. If the review of the Executive Director demonstrates areas for improvement, the Personnel Committee will create a development plan for the Executive Director with clear benchmarks and established timetables for delivery. And Clause 9, the Personnel Committee and Executive Director shall provide a formal report to the State Central Committee on employee performance and recommend compensation adjustments. Okay. And also Michelle Woodhouse said that we're opening the party GOP up for legal action for letting volunteers make decisions that should be made by professional HR people. Okay. Then Brent Heath of Wayne County had a point of information asking how are members selected. Well, it says here in 5A1, the Personnel Committee membership shall include the following, and each shall be elected by a majority vote of the State Central Committee. Number 1 is the state chairman. Number 2 is the 2 voting members of the State Central Committee representing the district chairman. Number 3 is 1 member of the State Central Committee representing the affiliate organizations. Number 4 is 3 members of the State Executive Committee who are members of congressional districts not represented in who have not been represented yet by other people. The state general council will serve as a member without a vote. And let's see. So that is what that pertains to. Okay. Speaking of opposition was Tina Forsberg of Guilford County. Hey, I know her. Looking at the duties, she says duties number 4, which is upon selection of an executive director by the Central Committee, the Personnel Committee shall negotiate the terms of employment and compensation without limits prescribed by the Central Committee. The Central Committee must provide consent to the contract's final terms. And Amendment 10, she says, also is not improper. That is maintain an employee handbook. And she says these volunteers, which are members that serve on the State Central Committee, are not properly licensed HR professionals. And I agree with her on that. Also opposed, and this is Johnny Shull of Wake County, says, look at the subcommittee versus a convention body. We need to trust our chairman's judgment on hiring, as well as the executive director in hiring executive director. Now, in support of Amendment 10 is Lynette Ramsey. She says this gives the decisions on hiring people for the state party, gives a committee the power to make decisions instead of one person. Opposing Amendment 10 is John Stewart. He says this sounds like micromanagement, telling us to do something different from what we do well. Marge Miller has concerns with who is doing the job and are they doing it legally. Joel Levy, then Mecklenburg County, moved previous question. Amendment 10 goes to a voice vote, and it is a resounding nay on the convention floor. So Amendment 10 fails. Then we go, and you notice that I have not covered Amendment 1 yet. Amendment 1 is the most controversial. Is one that I actually got a document of opposition in my goodie bag for the convention. So Amendment 1, there was a motion to table this until the afternoon business session by Clark Reamer of Wake County. Let's see. The purpose of Amendment 1 is to give affiliate groups would keep their seats on the Central Committee, but would need to replace the member serving on the Central Committee. So, in other words, if I were president of the Guilford County Young Republicans, I am currently not, but if I were, and then I decided to say, you know what, I'm going to run for state senate, under Amendment 1, I would have to resign from my seat on the Central Committee and give it to somebody else in the Guilford County Young Republicans to serve on the Central Committee. So that's what that pertains to. It should be noted then we had a voice vote on moving the talk of Amendment 1 to the afternoon. That failed. I voted to not move Amendment 1 to the afternoon, because if that happened, then we would immediately dismiss and go to lunch like at 11:15, 11:30. That's just too damn early. Okay, but there was a compromise that said to move the arrival time to 1:30 to 2 o'clock. And that passed. Okay. This had a lot of opposition. Jim Womack, who's a great man, said that Amendment 10 is one of the worst amendments. It suppresses the youth of the party, and he believes the current plan of organization is adequate. Okay, Larry Pittman who, on this, I disagree with, believe it or not. Larry Pittman says you cannot run for office and you should not be able to run for office, but also use the party to influence your candidacy. Johnny Scholl says that he says, I hardly ever agree with Jim Womack on anything, but the fact him and I agree on this should tell you something about this amendment. Mr. Scholl says it would force some good people to decide whether or not they want to run for personal elected office or GOP office or position. We need to encourage more people to be involved in the party and stop trying to fight ourselves. And then we had a debate was stopped by Deanna DiLiberto of Guilford County. This amendment failed by this was a landslide, 436 to 231. And that, after 41 minutes, I did 41 minutes of about a 2-hour business session. That's pretty good, I think. But that concludes the Saturday morning business session. So, of course, next we'll have the Saturday afternoon, and then we'll have the Sunday morning executive committee meeting. So stay tuned. Bye for now.